We're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm very pleased to introduce to you somebody that I had the pleasure of meeting last year, Mr. Leon Weinstein, and he is quite an interesting gentleman with a really, really great background, and he comes to us from Moscow, and he has some very interesting background and perspective, and I'd like you all to hear from him firsthand what it is like to actually live under that kind of regime that we all worry about facing here now. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Leon Weinstein.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Can I take this thing? Yeah. Hello? Hi, everybody. Hi, Leo. Hey. Okay. This way, okay? Yeah. I came from a country that our rulers called workers' paradise. They also called it the society of well-developed socialism. Each country that achieved this great status of well-developed socialism were unable to supply even necessities for the citizens of those countries. Often people starved, although, I came from the Soviet Union, so Soviet Union, at least their parts, Russia and Ukraine, were called bread baskets or food baskets of Europe before the great October Socialist Revolution. After this revolution, the people of the country stopped working. They were getting paid exactly the same amount of money or receiving benefits exactly the same way if they worked or they didn't work. So why to work? Many, many times during the history of the short history of the Soviet Union, there were no food there. I immigrated from the Soviet Union in the beginning of 70s, so about 40 years ago. It was this wonderful time where the country, the government was unable to feed the people. So what they did, they looked into their coffers. They found out they have no money to even buy the food from abroad because they did nothing that they were able to sell abroad in order to get some hard currency. So in order to save the communism, in order to save their country, they decided to go to people that they usually called sharks. I believe that today in America they called fat cats, right? With these terrible people, dirty, terrible people, oppressors called capitalists. They came to the United States and asked to loan them money in order to buy, they wanted to get at that time 1 million pounds of wheat. So the Americans said, of course we will save you guys, we'll save communism, we will save you with pleasure, but one little thing. Would you, in exchange for 1 million pounds of wheat, it was a loan, of course, would you, oh, we have a problem. No? Okay. Would you allow immigration from your country? The Soviets said no, back and forth for 2 years, and finally they agreed that for 1 million pounds of wheat, Russians would allow 50,000 people to immigrate. So 50,000 people, including myself, immigrated from there. Mostly minorities, Germans, Polak, Jews. And now, I am one of these unique people who knows exactly how much I worth. Because if you will take 1 million pounds of wheat and divide it by 50,000 people, you will find that I worth 20 tons of wheat wholesale. Now, I see here a couple of people already thinking, can they send me back and receive your wheat back? No. There is no Soviet Union anymore. Yes, you overpaid. But you had no idea about that, right? Okay. We came out of the country that we called prison of nations, not workers' paradise. You come out of prison, you want to see the world. You want to be everywhere. You want to catch up to things that you were unable to do before. So myself and my wife, we began to travel. We earn a little money, go there, and one day, already being citizens of the United States of America, one day we went to several countries in Asia, including Vietnam. So. The story, a little story I want to tell you, happened in Vietnam, and this is important that it happened there. We were climbing 1,001 steps to get to some mountain Buddha cave, and since they don't have anything else to show you, they show you caves where Buddhas lived. We were climbing there, and we were talking with her in Russian a little bit, and near me was a young girl, like 20-something, who asked me what language you're speaking, and I said Russian. Oh, so you're from Russia? I said, no, I'm not from Russia. I immigrated from Russia to the United States. And here comes a question that I didn't expect. She says, excuse me, why would anyone to immigrate to the United States? So I said, and where are you from? She said, Massachusetts. Massachusetts, and who you are? I said, I am a recent college graduate. My mom and dad purchased me this, around the world trip because I'm very good. Good. And why would you ask about, people who immigrate to the United States? Because it sounds like a very strange question. She said, we are a terrible country. We oppress people. We do not feed our hungry. We do not, give medicine to the poor. That's also terrible. That I really don't understand why would anyone would want to come and live with us. Happening in Vietnam. A lot of people, while we're kind of step by step going up, a lot of people are listening to us, and I decided that I cannot, let it pass. So I said, I will gladly answer your question, but before that, can I ask you a couple of questions? Because she said, sure. I said, do you know that how many people every year are applying for visas to legally and lawfully to immigrate to the United States? She said, no. I said, between 500,000 and 1 million people every year. She said, oh, really? Do you know how many people trying to climb over the fence or get under the fence or go into containers for a month sitting there in terrible situation, or go into the gas tanks of cars to cross the border and come here? She said, no. I said, about 500,000 people every year. She said, we oppress those people too. I said, okay, that's good, but here comes the question. Between 1 million to 2 million people every year trying to get into the United States of America. Do you know how many people, or do you know about any large group of people that want to emigrate from the United States of America to other countries? No. She said, no. Do you know about any Americans that are trying to get under the fence or over the fence or spend a month in a container in order to, get rid of this terrible country, terrible regime, and move to some other places? She said, no. So, wait a second, are you really college graduate? She said, yes. Did you go through like 3, 4, 5 years of college in order to learn how to think? She said, yes. She said, let's think together. Do you think that people tend to escape from good places and go to bad places? She said, no. I said, do people usually want to go from where life is good for them and for their families to the places where life is terrible? Like you said, the United States of America. She said, no. She said, so why does 2 million people want to come here and no one wants to get out of here? And here comes the point why I'm telling you this story. She looked at me, kind of, something like thought was in her eyes. And she said, so do you think I can be proud of my country? And I think she can be proud of her country. Because I don't believe that there was any country in the world that did for individuals, did for people, what this country did for you and me, guys. I'm not getting on the stage. That's not too early. I told 20 minutes, now it's only 4 minutes past. You will suffer 16 more. Who does not know history and who does not understand the history, destined to repeat all the terrible mistakes that were done in the history. I witnessed what socialism is all about. It always starts small and by steps, very small steps, grows and goes into conquering more and more and more of functions of your life. Like, oh, soda drinks are not good for you, so we will not sell you large soda drinks. We will not talk to you about that and will not try to convince you. We will ban the large soda drinks because it's good for you. You just don't understand it. Because we are a little bit smart. Actually, we're much smarter than you are, and we can decide for you what's good for you. Smoking is not good, so we will ban smoking from all the restaurants. We will not allow owners to put signs here, we can't smoke in this restaurant, you can't smoke, and let you decide where to go, where not to go. We will ban smoking forever. You're too stupid to decide for yourself because smoking is not good for you. Alcohol is bad, marijuana is terrible. We will ban everything, disregarding, and we will put dealers and heavy users into prisons. As of today, there is 500,000 people sitting in prisons of the United States of America, with about, I believe, $250,000 or $270,000 price tag on every head. We're spending all this money because you people do not know what's good for you. We, the government, know much better. So we will overcrowd our systems, we will overburden our finances, but we will do what we think is good for you. You are so not smart that you cannot even prepare lunch for your kids. We will check bags and lunches of your children. If we will decide that the lunch is not good for the child, we'll throw it into the garbage and we'll feed the child broccoli. I love broccoli, as a matter of fact. But do you think I can feed one of my grandchildren broccoli instead of hamburger? Oh, I can, of course. Yeah, they will hate me for that. We will pay for the broccoli from the money that we will take from you, because we're smarter than you. Government in the Soviet Union thought that we're not smart enough to understand what is better for us. This is why they took more than 90% of our money, whatever we earned, and spent it on whatever they wanted to spend. With our money, they conducted experiments. I know, me and Mike, something problematic. I move all the time, that's the problem, right? They conducted with us experiments that they were supposed first to conduct with rats. And only if those experiments smashingly successful, then maybe try to conduct it in North Korea. The American government is doing the same thing, absolutely. Most of the population to not listening to any of eyewitnesses like myself. I was called a couple of times Cassandra, if people know here who Cassandra was and what happened to her. And cheering their approval for the idea of taking money from others and giving to them. They do not understand that they will be in prison as well. Here is a couple of examples of interesting projects that the United States government conducted throughout their history and today. War on poverty, right? President Kennedy started, President Lyndon Johnson kind of pushed it through, and in the last, 40 years or 50 years, we spent about $16 trillion of dollars the United States didn't and doesn't have. We have 16 trillion debt of this country, and we spent $16 trillion to fight drugs, right? Now, I'm sorry, not drugs, poverty. Poverty is still here. Nothing happened to that. Poor people are still there. However, Americans poor are not really poor, as a matter of fact. You know that by every standard, American poor who has 1 or 2 cars in their family, couple of TV sets, food stamps coming to them that they exchange for nice things. I know for sure what they exchange them. Some of them, I'm not saying all of them. Guys, live in poverty, it's not, even American poverty, it's not fun. But what happened is that during this war on poverty, we created a class or underclass of people who totally depend on the government, think that they cannot do anything, and unable to do anything in order to get themselves out of this situation. So, war on poverty, after $16 trillion spent, lost. But we, the taxpayers, lost $16 trillion. People who were on the receiving end lost their initiative and lost their character, but somebody won. Who? The government. They had $16 trillion coming from one place to another place, and they were distributing the money. Do you think they didn't get anything out of that? If you think so, they are right, we're stupid. Another wonderful idea of the US government was houses for everyone, disregarding you have money or you don't have money. The result of this crazy idea was the triggering of the worldwide financial crisis. Another experiment, Richard Nixon, now Republicans, because two previous ones were Democratic ones. Republicans, Richard Nixon, war on drugs. We spent $1 trillion, not 16, 1. About 2 months ago, the Global Commission on Drug Policy released a report on war on drugs. The conclusion was, the global war on drugs has failed. So $1 trillion, war on drugs, failed. Everyone knows that the drug war you cannot win it. You have a willing seller, you have a willing buyer, you cannot do anything with that. They will find each other, they will buy. So who won? The government. They received $1 trillion in order to conduct this war. Do you think that they will say, okay, we will stop it. We will stop it because we cannot win. And we will not take your money anymore. And we will fire ourselves. And we will not be getting the great benefits, etc. No one thinks that, right? They are getting our money. They are smart. I came from a family of doctors. The first principle of this profession is do not harm. I have this strange conviction that in politics or in governing, this shall be the first and most important principle. Do not harm. Two ruling parties that rule the United States of America do harm. They do harm on a daily basis. They send our children to wars in order to promote democracy in Muslim countries. What a crazy idea. Our sons and daughters die. They, in order to shift the debate from infidelity of their president, bomb a country. People die. Because of the spot on a blue dress, or blue spot on a dress, I don't remember how it was exactly. They take money, as much money as they want from us, and do with the money as they please, just because they can. Or maybe because they are smart and we are less smart. It is no longer government for the people and by the people. It is called socialism and social engineering. And the debates in the media between two parties are, shall we take from you 90% or shall we take from you 40%? Because one party thinks that 90% not enough, another party thinks that 40% is enough. But the moment that they come to power, they think, 40% not enough. 47% is enough. There are no other voice right now in the country that is heard loud and clear and says something different. Our party exists for 30 years, and still population is unaware that there is another opinion. Population even not aware that the party exists. By population I mean in grant. And isn't aware that we have ideas different from the two ruling parties. Those that have heard about libertarians call us vacos. Vacos? How to pronounce it right? Cuckoos. They think that we are anarchists in the bad sense of the word. They think that we are for opening borders and letting 2 billion people who want to kill us here. That we want them to roam the street and take whatever they want. And no government, no police, no nothing. This misunderstanding is our fault. Not their fault, it's our fault. It is about time the Libertarian Party comes with a clear message. The message usually called manifesto or political platform in English. The same thing. Political platform is a set of political goals that a political party wants to achieve, steps to do in order to be in the power, to receive votes of the voters. In this manifesto, we need to tell to Americans that we want American soldiers out of Germany, Italy, Japan, and South Korea as a first step. There's 150,000 soldiers stationed in Germany for what? Defending Germans from whom? Spending $1 billion in South Korea to defend them from North Korea? Come on, they have enough money to build their own army 10 times larger. Why we need to send our sons and daughters in order to defend them from someone? We want fiscal responsibility and social tolerance. I don't really care what people do in their bedrooms. I don't really care how people spend their money. I don't care what people do unless they harm or hurt another human being or his property. Let people do what they want to do. We want to stop stupid and criminal wars on drugs, on poverty, and on the middle class. We want to stop illegal surveillance. We want government to abide by the same laws they create for us. We want sane immigration policies. We want government out of our education. We want to reform our tax system and minimize taxes to be used only for our defense. We want government to stop taking from one group of people and distributing it to another group or groups of people. We want government out of our healthcare. We want government out of our lives. We want them abide by the principle, do not harm. But do not harm is easy to say. It's very hard to implement. As a person who experienced socialism, I'm here to tell you, if we will not come up with the same alternative to what is going on right now in this country, to somehow stop the current crisis. And I'm not talking about healthcare crisis, although it's a huge crisis. I'm talking about the crisis of politics and the crisis of life in this country. We are on the course that several countries already experienced, when government promises more and more and more. And at a certain point, they will not have Chinese to borrow money or middle class to take money from, will not even have enough, possibility to print as much money as they need. And what will happen is they will start hearing from people who they promised, where's what you promised to me? And they will start coming up with enemies. And enemies are the people who are, we want to give it to you, but they. And the war on enemies was in the Soviet Union, in Poland, in Czechoslovakia, in Vietnam, in China, in every country that overpromised couldn't deliver. So the enemies will be found, targeted, and at certain point sent to gulags. Hopefully you know this word, gulag. Translation, prisons and camps. And if you think it's impossible, look at the most educated country in the world, Germany, some 75 years ago. Look at other countries that went the same way. Overpromising, government doesn't want to loosen the grip, and they start finding enemies and sending those enemies, and then the regime says, enemies are so strong, we have to bring military power in. The Libertarian Party has to offer sane alternative to counter the insane behavior of the current regime. If we will not, who will? Let me read you a quote. Thomas Jefferson, 1788. The natural progress of things is for liberty to yield and government to gain ground. However, it doesn't mean that we cannot stop the government from gaining ground. I hope we do. I hope we start today.
Thank you, Leo. I appreciate that. He's got quite an interesting background, don't you think? He's the only guy who can actually say, I know how much I cost or what I'm worth. It's not bad.